that that kind of pissed him off, and he sat there, you know, just kind of criticizing Scott the rest of the game. Kind of being a sarcastic dick about everything. And at first we're just kind of like, yeah, all right, that was fucked up, have a few at him, but literally the rest of the game. But it didn't really matter because it wasn't really much of a game, anyways. We were just going through this giant, you know, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to kill you fest. So we get to level 3 eventually, and now he's got rooms that are like designed to be like tricky. What I mean by that is he's got rooms like one room we walked into, the room that Keith's character died in, his samurai. Uh, it was we opened the door and it was just a garden of all different kinds of weird things growing in it. It had all kinds of things, and he gave a list off of all kinds of weird shit. And he's like, yeah, you got mini gourds growing, and these weird spotted bell peppers, and you got some mushrooms and some acorns and some plums growing and some berries and just a whole bunch of shit that he's just listing off, right? And he's like, of course the door closes behind you when you go in to investigate, because why wouldn't it? And he's like, when you go in to investigate a little further, gnomes with swords pop out of nowhere and attack you, and they're surrounding you. And so we all get back to back and stuff, and now we're in a fight for our life with evil fucking gnomes. And so we fought off the gnomes, right? And he designed it to be like, oh, okay, these gnomes were, guarding these rare, weird looking, plants and stuff like that. So clearly they've got to be of some form of mystical value or something like that, right? And so we kill off the gnomes, and we're like, well, why not look around the garden, Does anybody know what any of this stuff is, And he's all like, oh, why don't you go take a look around? And so we go, and we're looking around. And he's all like, oh, wait, but all of a sudden, the mushrooms in the garden, keyword, mushrooms, out of all the other shit he said, and he put it in there too. He put mushrooms in his little list, but he said it so fucking casually. So he's trying to trick us. He's like, but before you know it, all of a sudden, all the mushrooms spread across the garden, grow to a gigantic size, and they grow feet and arms, and they start attacking the party, and they fill the room up with poison that they spew from the top of their heads. And the entire party is poisoned. I'm like, oh shit. And there's like 20 of these fucking things. And they're giants. And it's like, no, this is clearly not a room that we went in here to have a victory over. He tricked us with the gnomes into getting us to explore. He's like, oh, he tricked us into thinking, oh, clearly the gnomes are guarding something, right? And so, of course, we go exploring, and now all of a sudden the fucking mushrooms are coming out of the woodwork. Or, well, technically they're coming out of the soil and growing into gargantuan, shroom monsters. And there's literally 20 of these things in this room. And so, of course, we're like, we book it back out the door. And he's like, okay, roll initiative. We all roll initiative. Keith, he gets the lowest. So he's the one who gets surrounded by the mushrooms, and they just pulverize his character. Just, just beat him to death. And he's like, "You, sir, are a son of a bitch." And he's like, "Ha ha ha, yeah, I know. You know, Scott's getting off on this shit. I mean, this is his idea of being a DM, right?" So, we're all kind of getting agitated by this point because now this third level is rooms kind of like that, with some form of trickery that ends up in some sort of giant monster mash that we can't possibly fend off the odds that are coming after us, right? You know, and there are still traps thrown in there and everything, and eventually it just starts to pick us off one by one. I believe it or not, I actually made it to the end. Why? Because I'm just the new guy. He's not trying to focus his attention on me. No, he's trying to focus his attention on his old D&D party, his D&D buddies. He's clearly getting back at them for something they did ages ago or something, and he is just going all out. People are just getting shredded by traps and poisoned, and the gnome guy. Oh my god! So, our the guy sitting next to me, our gnome, he has an endless bag, I believe it's called, and it's basically a bag, never-ending sack, I think it's called, and it's a well, it's pretty much what its name implies. You can put just fucking anything you want in there, and after we got poisoned, the whole group in general got poisoned by the mushrooms, and we had made it out of that particular room. He's like, all right, I whip out my antidotes out of my endless sack. And he's like, oh, how many do you have? I'm like, well, I know from past experience, sir, that you like your poison. And Scott's like, yeah, I do. So I brought along a fuck ton of antidotes and potions and, and scrolls and stuff, right? This kind of pisses off Scott because this is what gets us to the fourth floor. You know, because he's loaded with this shit, right? So what he does is when we get to the fourth floor, he's getting kind of sick and tired of the dwarf. Sorry, I think I called him a gnome before, but our residential dwarf over here, our good Samaritan, who's constantly feeding us antidotes after we're getting poisoned, and giving us health, or food, you know, uh, he's getting fucking sick and tired of it. And so, by the time we get to the fourth floor, he gets hurt in another room, and he's like, I drink a, you know, health potion, right? Elixir of health or whatever it, he calls it. And I should know what it's called, but it is like 5 in the morning right now, and I've been up all night, and you know. Anyways, I even have the and it's stupid because I should know it, technically what they're called, because I even have the magic item Comporium for third edition D&D. I mean, I have a shit ton of books on D&D now, so I should know what it's called. But most of my groups, I run two groups right now, and they're just like, I'm gonna drink a potion, store my health. I've got one of those. We don't really, technically pay attention to what it's called. Now, I'm kind of agitated myself now. I gotta look it up now. Hang on, because I should know this. Why the fuck shouldn't I know this? I DM now. It's fucking, kind of insulting in a way. But it's just, you're going along and you're just like, oh yeah, I drink a potion. It's not like you're gonna call it by its actual name when you're, in the midst of trying to be in character, or, in the midst of in battle, in combat. Or your character's bleeding out, or he's poisoned. He's got like sores and stuff on him, and he's cursed. You're just like, I take my potion. Alright, so, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. It's cool. I'll look it up later because I'm kind of OCD about that sort of thing. Anyways. But anyways, our friendly neighborhood dwarf, he takes his potion, and Scott's like, roll for, I think he says it's item misconsumption. And I had to look at him. I'm like, what is that? Because I've been drinking a lot of stuff that he's been handing me too, and I'm like, item misconsumption. I'm still learning, of course. And he's like, it's what happens when you mix too many different potions too much. And the guy next to me, he's like, yeah, but not a whole lot of people actually, use it anymore. And he's kind of giving him like he's kind of giving Scott like the stare, like, are you fucking for real? And he's like, yeah, well, I'm the DM and I'm gonna have you roll for it. And Scott's just got this big shit-eater grin smile on his face. And he's like, and the guy's next to me, he's like, you son of a bitch. And so he rolls. And Scott's like, oh, nope. Sorry. And so our group is walking down a hallway, and all of a sudden, our dwarf just spontaneously combusts and explodes. And, in character, we're just like, whoa, right? Like, what the hell happened? And then Scott, as the DM, he explains to me, item misconsumption, when you consume too much, you have to make if the DM calls it, you have to make a roll check on item misconsumption. And if you roll too low, your character explodes. I'm like, what the fuck? From drinking health potions and antidotes and shit? He's like, yep. Holy fuck. He's all like, this bullshit. The guy next to me. He's like, fuck this game.